Liam had never been on a date in years. As a single father who worked double shifts at a hardware store and spent every extra minute raising his little daughter, Emily, he barely had time to sleep, let alone think about romance. But his best friend, Mark, insisted he try again. "You deserve someone," Mark told him. "Just one dinner, I'm setting it up." Liam refused for days, but eventually he agreed. What harm could one simple dinner do? The night arrived, and Liam wore the only clean shirt he owned that didn't have paint stains. Emily brushed his hair and said, "Daddy, you look handsome like a prince." He laughed and hugged her tightly before leaving. The restaurant wasn't fancy, but it looked warm, soft, and full of candlelight. He walked in nervously. Mark had told him the girl's name was Ava. Beautiful name, he thought. When he reached the table, he froze. A young woman sat there, fragile, elegant, breathtaking, but she wasn't looking at him. Her gaze stared softly at the table. Her hands trembled slightly, and then he noticed the wheelchair, and the hearing aids, and the tablet in her lap glowing faintly. A message flashed on it. "Hello, are you Liam?" He turned instantly to find Mark, convinced this was a mistake, but his friend had already driven away. Liam swallowed hard. He wasn't prepared for this, not because she was disabled, but because he wondered if she even wanted him there, or if she'd been forced into this blind date too. Still he sat. Ava lifted her fingers and typed again. "I can't hear you well. I read lips but slowly, and I can't move my legs. I'll understand if you want to leave." His heart twisted. Someone must have set her up too, maybe thinking two broken people belonged together, cruel, heartless. But Liam didn't leave. Instead, he smiled and said slowly, lips clear, "Hi, Ava, I'm Liam. I'm really glad to be here." Her eyes lifted, surprised. The conversation was awkward at first. He spoke slowly so she could read his lips. She typed to reply, but slowly, like dawn breaking, something warm started forming between them. She laughed silently at his jokes, shoulders shaking. He learned she loved drawing. She learned he worked 2 jobs. He learned her paralysis happened after an accident 2 years ago. She learned he was raising his daughter alone. Minutes melted like soft wax. And then dinner ended. When Liam stood to leave, Ava typed something and tilted the screen toward him. "Thank you for not treating me like something broken." He didn't know what to say, so he just smiled, placed his hand gently over hers and whispered, "You're not broken." She looked away quickly, blinking too many times. It wasn't until he stepped outside that he realized he didn't want the night to end. A week passed. Ava didn't message him. Maybe she thought he wasn't interested. Maybe she thought he was being polite. Liam debated for days, then finally dialed the number Mark gave him. Ava's caretaker picked up and sounded shocked. You want to see her again? Most men never come back." That broke his heart more than anything. When he reached her home, Ava sat by the window sketching. She looked startled but happy. He noticed one of her drawings on the table. It was of him, smiling at the restaurant. "You drew me?" he asked softly. She typed something, cheeks flushed. "I draw the moments I don't want to forget." Liam felt something shift inside his chest, something warm, something he hadn't felt in years. From that day on, he visited her every evening after work. Emily adored her instantly. She would crawl on Ava's lap, hug her, show her school drawings, and chatter endlessly, knowing Ava couldn't hear but somehow understanding Ava listened with her heart. Ava's life became color again. Her sketchbook filled with drawings of Emily, sunsets, coffee cups, small joys she had stopped noticing. And Liam. Liam fell for her. Not pity, not duty. But love, real gentle, slow-burning love. One evening, after months, they sat in the garden under fairy lights. Ava motioned for her tablet but then paused. She didn't type. She placed her fingers shakily on his palm and spelled each letter slowly, her hands trembling. I-A-M S-C-A-R-E-D. He held her hand softly and said with his lips slow and clear, "Of what?" Her throat moved. She pushed every bit of strength she had and whispered, broken, hoarse, barely a sound but full of soul. "Of being a burden." Liam froze, and then tears filled his eyes. He knelt next to her wheelchair, took her trembling hands and pressed them to his cheeks. "Ava," he whispered, voice cracking, "you're not a burden. You're the best thing that has happened to me, to Emily, to our lives. You gave us hope again." Ava stared at him, stunned. No one had ever said that to her, not since the accident, not since the world treated her like a delicate object. Her tears fell silently. Liam wiped each one, kissed her knuckles and said, "I don't see your wheelchair. I see you. The bravest woman I know." And for the first time since her accident, Ava smiled fully, radiant, beautiful, alive. She typed one last sentence and held it up. "Liam, I think I'm falling in love with you." And he didn't need to read it. He saw it in her eyes. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "I already have." Under the fairy lights, with the sound of the wind, Ava lifted her trembling hands and pulled him gently closer. And finally, Liam kissed her. Not out of pity, not out of obligation, but out of love so deep, it healed places inside both of them that had been broken for too long. Months later, Emily made a drawing of them, Ava, Liam, and herself, holding hands. On the top she wrote, "My family." And Ava knew, for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. She was loved, chosen, cherished. And the words she whispered that night, the ones Liam thought he'd imagined, stayed with him forever. "I'm not afraid anymore.